I appreciate that. That means a lot. I got to thinking about when he was reading the promises a minute ago. How's it going? It says of these extravagant promises. And everybody always says we think not. But the thought that comes to my mind, if there's a newcomer, those are very, very extremely extravagant promises. But we've been trained to say what everybody else says and say we think not, even if we believe that they are. Interestingly enough, clearly, the people that wrote the book didn't feel like they were extravagant because they had already attained them. But it's okay for a newcomer to feel like they're extravagant. The word attain makes me think of something. I might do a little pacing back and forth because I hate being chained to a podium. So if I pace, it's not because I had too many monsters, which I did, but it's for another reason. And there is Atrox across the street, and that's where they scare people, and I hope I don't scare anybody tonight. I have been known to scare people. Not trying to. What was I saying? Maintain. Interestingly enough, I think about Bill W. when he talks about the book and how it works, and we read how it works a minute ago too. And how often we think about, or let's say don't think about, what's being read, because it's read all the time, and we just, they're reading how it works. I can go smoke a cigarette. The readings will be over in 5 minutes. And how often I'm guilty of that, and I've heard how it works 1,000 times, and just like I've said the Lord's Prayer 1,000 times, but I keep forgetting that part in there. It says, forgive me of my trespasses as I forgive. And it's like, wait, if I never forgive, then I'm never forgiven. I forget what I say. And we read right past it without even thinking. And one of the words that jump out of how it works is the word, no one among us has been able to maintain anything like perfect adherence. We're not saints, it says. Interestingly enough, to be a saint, does anybody know what you have to be without a shadow of a doubt to become a saint? You have to be dead. You have to be absolutely dead because the Catholic Church has to vote you a saint. It's called canonization. So I look at that word, we are not saints, in a different way, right? We're not saints. That means we're still alive. We still have a chance. That's just an interesting aside. I haven't got to the maintain part. I have to think about every single word that Bill placed in that book. Now, I walked up here with some coffee. There it went. I'll get it. But every single word, I have to believe, was placed for a reason, right? And I also have to believe that I think, higher power guided his hand. Because anybody that wrote that thing all by himself, except for the chapter to the employers, and much to his wife's chagrin, Lois did not get a chance to write to wives. And we know that she didn't because of all the wonderful things it says in there. If he comes home and raises hell, cut him slack. Even if he gets with another chick, cut him some slack. It's no big deal. I mean, it's all, no self-respecting woman would ever say that kind of stuff. But anyway, back to the word maintain. I always come back. I always jump off somewhere and say, where is it going? Okay, we're coming back to the word maintain and how it works. Interestingly enough, every word I'll have to believe was properly placed in the book for a reason. So in how it works, he says, no one among us has been able to maintain anything like perfect adherence to these principles. Why didn't he say attain? Of course, silence falls over because we can't ask him because he's dead. But the thing about it is that what we have to do is think about, now why didn't he say attain if that's what he meant to say? Because when we hear how it works and it says no one among us has been able to maintain anything, that's what we hear. We hear attain. We hear we can't attain perfection. That's what we hear. That's what we are certain that he meant. But interestingly enough, we've never thought about it because we read it every time and we don't think about what we're listening to. So I analyzed it and I thought about, why didn't he say attain? Well, it's a promise and it's a warning, just like everything in the book, right? There's a promise, but there's a qualification. These things will happen if we follow certain simple rules. It begins to flow into us provided we maintain a certain simple attitude. Now, the reason that the word attain is not there, and there's some definitely some hints once he wrote the 12 and 12, right? 15 years later, because he talks about perfection all through it. Raising my eyes toward perfection, being willing to walk in that direction. These are perfect ideals, which I gauge my progress. So the idea behind that he doesn't say attain is that I can attain it, I just can't maintain it. And how do I attain it? Interestingly enough, my experience is once I've worked the steps, I'm in 10, 11, and 12. And we've heard this before, that we work the steps up to a certain point, and then we have what's called the maintenance steps, and I'm in 10, 11, and 12 for a lifetime, and that's something that I believe in and adhere to. So if I do that, then the beginning of that is obviously on 84 and 85, right? And 86 and 87 and 88, where it clearly says I'm undisciplined, but I let God discipline me in the way they outline. So in those pages, it talks about a series of questions. When I retire at night, have I kept something to myself? Have I harmed anyone? Have I been kind and loving toward all? There's a laundry list of questions. You can envision what they are. I won't read them. You can go check them out yourself, but you're vaguely familiar with what I'm talking about. So let's say that I've had one of those days where I went down that laundry list of questions, and I know everybody in here has done this. And when I say it, you're going to go, you know what? I have had one of those. Ever go down that laundry list of questions, and you go, well, you know what? I haven't kept something to myself, and I haven't harmed anybody, and I have been kind and loving toward all, and there isn't anything I should make amends to. Now, chances are I've chained myself to a tree or locked myself in the bathroom on that day, but still, I've answered all those questions in the affirmative, right? Or the negative, whichever way the good way would be, I would answer them. And it's like, wow, that sounds like a pretty perfect day. Because if those questions were the encapsulation of the perfect questions, right? I mean, I guess he could ask 1,000 questions, but we'd have 964 pages instead of 164 pages, right? So he condensed down the appropriate questions. When I retire at night, I ask these questions. And if those are the perfect questions, and I've gotten a good grade or a gold star on every one of those questions, that's a pretty perfect day. But here's the warning, right? He didn't say attain, he said maintain. The warning is, I may have one of those days. And here's what happens to a lot of newcomers, right? Or somebody that works the steps. They have one of those days. And then they say, well, I got this. It's all good. I've had one of those days. And then they stop coming. Well, they stop trying. Well, they stop entertaining the thought that there could maybe be a day when I don't answer all those correctly. That's where the journey, not the destination concept clearly can come from. But let's be clear. Can we have a perfect day? Absolutely. Can we maintain it? Chances are there's going to be one of those days where I, missed that question. Dang! You know? So it's okay. But the point is clear, is that the study of the big book, why did I go into all those little details of things that we don't really think about? Number one, it's to make people think. Number two, it's to realize that there are things hidden underneath the surface that I rarely even think about, and even more rarely go investigate. Because what would it take to go investigate those things, right? I'd have to go read AA Comes of Age, right? I'd have to go do that, which I've done. I'd have to go read Dr. Bob and the Good Old Timers and read about all those people in the AA history and who started what, and what's between the lines, which I've done. And then you find out, wow, this big book really comes alive, because you find out that there's more between the lines than there are on the lines. And that's when it starts getting exciting, right? It can start getting exciting. I tell you, it's been my experience, and there's nothing that I'm saying here tonight that's not my experience, right? I've had one of those days where I answered all the questions right, but I kept coming back, and then I've had one of those days where, oops, I missed 2 or 3 of them. I've thought that they were extravagant promises, right? Now I've worked the steps, and now I realize that they're not so extravagant. So everything I've talked about, I've experienced. So what I'm trying to say is that there's so much in the big book, right? And one of my things that I like to talk about, I tell you what I'll do is I'll save it. I'll save it, a little nugget. Now here's my real test. Can I talk for about 20 minutes and then come back to something I said I promised I would do. Because that's the real trick. You can do it for a couple of minutes and your mind's going, hey, get back there, get back there. But if it's 20 minutes later, somebody's going to catch me because I didn't come back to that little nugget. And if you say the word nugget, I'll remember what it was supposed to be. And then I'll share it with you. The chances are, in what I'm going to talk about, I'll cover it. Last time I spoke, I was a blubbering idiot. This time, I'm not playing Misty for you right now, because the last time I spoke, I almost died that day. I got out and I pitched a softball game for our local group, and I stayed out there as the pitcher while everybody else got to take their turn in the dugout, right? And I was standing out there in the sun, and I obviously was thinking that monsters were water, and I got dehydrated and I practically fell out. I got lightheaded and very scary, and I was on the way home and I had to stop by the fire department. They hooked me up. Anyway, I had to speak 3 hours later. So I'm coming up there, having had a white light experience practically, and I still got one of those things stuck to my chest. I was like, what is this? So I was sort of like very emotional. So everything I was saying, my dog, it was really bad. I mean, I'm embarrassed to say it. There were a couple of witnesses to this fact. I tell you, to hear me talk, you would not think there's no way that guy could be doing that kind of stuff. When I think about an AA talk, and I've heard a lot of them, and I don't really think much of them, and I'm going to tell you why. I don't really think much of AA talks because most of what I end up hearing is 55 minutes of drunkalogue, right? And then, oh no, time's out. I'm in recovery. Y'all have a good night. And it's like, wait, you leave more wanting to drink when you leave than when you got here. Because see, the thing about telling war stories, drunk stories, whatever you want to call it, these days, there's no pure alcoholics anymore. So somebody's going to hear you say alcohol and they did something else and you're shut down. Or they're going to talk about something else and you didn't do that and it's shut down. Or they come from a different part of the country and, it's shut down. See, so we must be careful. And a lot of times people come by it honestly, but what can I say that will be universal? That's the real question. What can I say that everybody can get? That's the real trick. And it is a trick. And it can be done. What I need to be talking about is only stuff about my childhood or my early upbringing that has a direct bearing on what we're here to talk about. Because I could come in here and say, yeah, I was born in, where was it? It was in Nantucket, right? I was born in a so-and-so place, and I had a so-and-so car, and my parents were so-and-so whatever, and you're going, so and so? But if I say something about my childhood and it has a direct bearing of what we deal with here, then it's applicable. Then, as the judge would say, that's relevant information. We can allow that in. Otherwise, it's irrelevant. Boom. But there ain't no judge here, so you got to let it in, right? So we get to hear all this stuff. We get to hear about all the times the guy got drunk over and over and over. Got his bathroom towel with white chips, This is about experience, strength, and hope, not war stories, weakness, and despair. That's what this has got to be about, right? So you won't hear me talk about any war stories. Nor should I, after being here this long. I should be able to at least fill out a little bit of time talking about something constructive, something that can make somebody think. Something can make somebody, well, maybe I should go in that book and check that out to see if that guy's lying, which is cool. That's what I want. That's exactly why I always say page numbers, so people will go check it out to make sure I'm not, bamboozling you, hoodwinking you or something. Because I could say anything, and I'm going to tell you the old saying about, hey, you want to hide something from an alcoholic, put it in the first 164 pages. That holds true, man. I could say anything, and you'd be like, yeah, sounds good. I guarantee you. I could be the bamboozler of all time right up here. But I wouldn't dare do that because my reputation is more valuable to me than it used to be. And I wouldn't want to get caught doing something like that. So, my childhood, two things that's applicable. Let me say this before I go there. Now I've got a nugget. Now I got to get back there. I got two things I got to cover after I say this, because there's always something else to say, to preface, to set the stage, to get this commonality, which is important. Because what I'm supposed to do is tell some kind of funny, right? I'm supposed to tell a joke in a funny to get everybody laughing, and then we proceed. That's the way I was trained to do. So, no, seriously, my dad, I mean, he made me go to this place when I was like 16 with these old men that had suits on and had to learn how to public speak with these guys. And when I was 16 years old, we're talking about cruel and unusual punishment here. We're talking about having to read Dale Carnegie every night at the dinner table, at least 3 pages. We're talking about, this is not good. I'm trying to eat chicken fingers and fries over here. He's talking Dale Carnegie and go to Toastmasters tonight. And I'm like, dude, I don't know about all of this. But there's something about he knew that I didn't know. And see, that's what I really need to get when I get here. Chances are there's somebody here, segue back to this, there's somebody here that knows something I don't know, and I need to at least be open to doing it even if I don't believe in it. And chances are I'll come around. So for the funny, it reminds me of a joke. I'm trying to tie something that did remind me, because I have to say, if something reminds me, what was it that reminded you, Mike? Or are you just throwing it out there with no effective segue to get there? But anyway, it reminds me of a joke by the old Richard Pryor. And some of you have heard this, but most of you haven't. And it's okay. But it's still applicable and funny and uplifting at the same time, I believe. Richard Pryor, he's a comedian, and he's playing a skit where he's going up to this guy's office and he's trying to get a job. So he's playing like he's sitting across from the desk for this guy, and he's handed the guy his resume, and the guy's mulling it over, and he says, as the other guy says, well, I've looked at your resume. We don't think that you're reliable. We don't think you're dependable. You're just not what we're looking for. And then he plays the other guy in his best drunk voice, which I will not try to emulate. He says, what do you mean I'm not dependable? For the last 5 years, I've had a $500 a day drug habit. I ain't missed a payment. There you go. See, that's it. See, so the thing about it is that sometimes things are food for thought. What am I really trying to say? What I'm trying to say is that he had energy back there to make it happen. Now, it was not constructive. It was dragging him down. Certainly wasn't going to get him that job. But what was it? It was the energy. It was that Spanish word called ganas, desire. Now, if I can come in here with that same energy, there's no way I can fail, right? Our book talks about on 45, it says, with this attitude you cannot fail. In Dr. Bob's story, he talks about it, if you bring half the zeal. See, this is the same story, different words. Half the zeal into this, my Heavenly Father won't let me down. That's the story. And why am I telling the story? The story is important because what I'm doing is saying everybody in here's got what it takes to make it. That's important to hear. Because I guarantee you, newcomer come in here, they don't think what they got is to make it. They hear that Richard Pryor story, somebody shapes it like that, they go, you know what? I didn't miss a payment. Maybe I can do this thing. That's just logic. That's just a fact. There ain't no way around it. Everybody in here tonight has a chance. Did somebody spin the basket on me already? Let me tell you something. When somebody spins the basket on me in a meeting, I usually get riled. Because I've had it happen to me before. Like I'll be sharing and they'll go, oh, Mike's sharing. We're not going to like to hear that truth. Let me spin the basket so it'll disrupt the meeting. Boy, that's when it really, you're talking about the heat, you'd have to turn that up to extra high because it would be fixing to be something happen up in that camp. I'm going to tell you. But I know this basket has nothing to do with that basket, so we shall let it pass. So what was the story about the energy, right? Told you Atrox is over there. Ain't no reason to get scared. This thing, it is getting hot in here, I'm going to tell you. I shouldn't turn that thing down. Chances are y'all going to be able to hear me over that. Nobody ever sees Mike. We can't hear you. Nobody's ever said that. We can't hear you, Mike. Speak up. No, but the story about the energy dovetails perfectly with a show that I used to like. And what I'm doing is I'm basically bragging on us all. And then I'm going to start talking about me a little bit. There's an old show that I used to like. Where are we going to eat? Let's see. Dollar Menu. Isn't that funny? I mean, yeah. Actually, there's quite a catch there. But when we caught somebody at Jaffe, it was like 4 or 5 months ago. They really took it serious when somebody said, if you have a dollar, give a dollar. If you need a dollar, take a dollar. Homie took $1. It was not cool. It's nothing nice. Glad it wasn't me. But it is the best show in town for $1. Because some of the stuff you see in AA is really, really entertaining. Glad our friends from Tennessee are here. I knew when I drove in to the exit that I saw all the bikes coming at the barber deal. I knew for a fact there would be somebody, and I shared it with my friend. I knew there would be somebody, if they was like me, and you're out of town, you get out of the deal, you're going to look up a meeting, and you're going to hit you a meeting. And with all those bikes, I'm just sad to say there's two dedicated AA members that decided to take that extra step and come visit us. I'm only sorry that you have to listen to me because I'm sure they had some good things to say. I know they didn't expect to hear a speaker meeting. I can guarantee it because I've gone out of town thinking I'm fixing to bring that extra out of town heat because ain't nobody's heard these nuggets, right? And then it's a speaker meeting and I'm going, man, I got to get out of here. How can I get out of here? So anyway, see, what does it say? There's a vast amount of fun about it all, right? That's right. Our escapades are variously strenuous, comic, and tragic. Funny, humiliating, shameful, and tragic in another place it says. But it is true. We laugh about seemingly tragic events from the past. And what does it say the newcomers do? They're shocked by our seemingly worldliness and levity. Why shouldn't we laugh? We've recovered and been given the power to help others. 132. We don't talk about certain pages in AA because they're sort of like, those are the things we just don't say in the fellowship anymore. Recovered, restored, that we have power, perfection. These are all things that are all throughout the book, but better not say them in a meeting or somebody's going to say, he told me I had to work it his way, or he thinks he works a perfect program. Just because they invited somebody to see something they stumbled across in the book about God's given us the power to help others. I mean, I think these are uplifting things that we should talk about more. Just because I say it, it ain't going to change nothing, though. The uplifting story about half the zeal, the Richard Pryor story, about having the energy of what it takes to stay here and make it here, dovetails perfectly with an old show I used to like, Star Trek. And I'm not talking about the new Star Trek. I'm talking about the old one with the original, with my boy Kirk and Spock, right? Here's a poser for you. I hope I'm not dating myself. It's too late. I think my face dates me. I wouldn't even have to say anything. I mean, he's just like, dude, he's talking about the old Star Trek, you know. Clearly I'm not 22 like I was when I got here. But the thing about it is, what about Star Trek when they were going down to the planet, right? They're always going to go down there and fight somebody. It's an old girl that sucks the salt out of people with her hands, and she looks like a good-looking chick, but she's really a nasty monster. Or they're going to go get yeah, you remember that show? Or they're going to go fight the lizard guy, the Zorn, and he's going to have to put him a caboose together with some rocks and stuff. So anyway, when they go down to the thing, and they're on the transporter, right? Okay, picture this. Every single show, it's always the same. Who gets on the transporter? Kirk. Your boy. Spock. Maybe a good-looking chick. Maybe. She's coming back. Who's not coming back? Let's be clear. Who is not coming back? What shirt are they wearing? The red shirt dudes. They ain't coming back, baby. They ain't coming back. I'm not talking about Alabama. That's crimson. I'm talking about they had bright red shirts with the little black frilly frills on the sleeves. So what I'm supposed to say, even though I actually do see it, I'm going to play like I don't. I don't see any red shirts in here because I'm speaking metaphorically, right? I don't see any red shirts on this transporter. That means we all got the same chance to come back. That's why I tell the story. Right behind the guy that never missed a payment. Because we have the energy that it takes to make it here. And we're all on the same transporter, and we all have the same chance tonight as we sit here. Now, I don't know anybody's backstory, and if you go to a regular meeting, you begin to be able to know somebody's backstory, and then that's when you start going, oh, dude, Sharon, he's saying one thing, but he lives another. I'm going to shut him down. Well, see, I don't know anybody here, so all of y'all ain't there, and you got red shirts. Some regular here might go, yeah, there's a red shirt over there, and a red shirt homie over there, but I don't know that. So the point is clear, what I'm trying to say. How you doing, sir? The point is clear. There's no red shirts in here. Everybody's got what it takes to make it. And that's the end of me, my uplifting part of my talk. I'm going to start talking about me a little bit. I like to set the stage a little bit. I guarantee you, you might not like anything of what I've said, but I got to believe it's a lot better than me talking about me puking on the front of my shirt or getting arrested, you know, or waking up in the morning, taking a shower, or thinking that I'm clean, and my mom, because I didn't have a license, because I already had it revoked. Mom's giving me a ride to work, and I think I'm all clean, and I got my I used to be a banquet waiter at the Winfrey Hotel, 1984. Got my little bow tie on and the little tabletop, put the little tabs on top of the tie. I thought I was something. Looking all sharp, clean. And Mom says on the way there, honey, you smell like alcohol. That stuff's coming out of your pores. I mean, that's not a story that we want to talk about in here. You know, there's plenty of worse ones, right? But see how the difference between uplifting and that kind of story is like, wait, I choose let's go back to the transporter, Mike. Right? Let's go back to the transporter. We don't want to talk about that. I have much more to talk about than that. Unfortunately, most people do not. That's why I do not like speaker meetings. But you're in luck tonight, I can guarantee it. And there won't be no tears here, unless they're tears of joy. Let's talk about my childhood. Applicable things, not Nantucket or any of that other stuff that means nothing. A couple of things about my childhood. I'm an only child. You're going, what does that have to do with anything, Mike? Well, it has everything to do with it if you've read Dr. Bob's story, because it said he was an only child, right? And he said it engendered the selfishness that played such an integral part in bringing about my alcoholism. I was an only child. The world did revolve around me. I was not confused about it, and I took that throughout my life. So selfishness, self-centeredness was the root of my troubles. And you can blame my parents and the fact that Mommy put me on the potty backwards one time. I'm telling you, I found that out in therapy. She put me on the potty backwards one time. That's why I'm here. But I've learned to be okay with it. That's right. I did go to Paris and see a bidet, and I sat on it backwards. Have you ever seen one of those? I wouldn't recommend it. It's quite a shocking experience. I'm getting better, because sometimes I'm on the way home before they get what I said. Yeah. Did he just... He's gone. I can't say nothing. I was an only child, so I did engender the selfishness that came by it, honestly. What's something else about me, about this, that's applicable? When I was a kid, there used to be these Wacky Pack stickers. I don't know if anybody remembers those. Wacky Pack stickers were like, the packs of stickers, you'd go to the store, and then it'd have a piece of bubble gum in it. You know, the kind of piece of bubble gum where you put 10 pieces and you're going, and then you have to try to make yourself chew. Anyway, it's got these little Wacky Pack stickers in it. What's a Wacky Pack sticker? Wacky Pack sticker is of every imaginable product that you would use around your house, like Tide, clothes washing. It would say Toad, clothes washing stuff, for the frog in you, and it'd have a funny little frog on the thing. Every product you could imagine, they'd have a little funny, and they'd make a funny about how it was a weird little product. And you love those stickers, right? So I love those stickers, but I never peeled the sticker off. Had to have the sticker on the thing, right? But then at the bottom right-hand corner, now is where I can tell you, see, you don't get Wacky Pack stickers, but my job is to not be divisive where you're going, who cares about Wacky Pack stickers? It's time to go. I'm going to say something that all of you can get, because I know at some point in your life, every single one of you has collected some kind of sticker with a piece of bubble gum in it, right? And what's at the bottom right-hand corner of every single card, I don't care what it is, what does it say down there? Not tops on the left side. On the right side, it says 5 of 200. 25 of 200. It's like got a complete set, right? You have a set of them. Oh my God. I had to have the whole set. I'm talking about obsessed. I would go, I would have like 20 duplicates of this one. I'm missing one. I've got to go, got stacks of bubble gum. I mean, it was crazy. So what does that have to do with this? What it has to do with this is I had an addictive personality before I ever got here. That is directly applicable to what we're talking about. That means that's before I ever took a drink, right? So those are two things that I remember. And sometimes we have to look earnestly, serious in intention, to find those things that are applicable, that let me know that I was dealing with things before I even got here, right? That probably played a part into why I needed a drink. Now, I'm going to talk about a little bit about why I needed a drink, and I'm going to talk about why I couldn't stop. I might not get through all the steps. You see how time has flown? I don't even know if there's a clock behind me. There's a clock behind me. Look how time flies, and I don't feel like I've said anything, but I've said everything. Right? Because whatever it is, it's been meaningful instead of a bunch of war stories that are hollow and leave you wanting. What we've talked about is things we can be together on and agree on and get with and uplifting, and we're going this way instead of this way, because I believe in giving yourself something to live up to, not something to live down to. Challenging oneself is important. I know a little bit about this. I won't go into it. But it's important to know that there were things about me that I needed to deal with even before I took a drink. And now we know what they are. They were character defects, right? Fear, selfish, self-seeking, dishonesty. I was dealing with those before I ever took a drink. To such a degree, right? Because in the 12 and 12 on 44, it talks about instincts on rampage, balk at investigation. So I had instincts that were on rampage. I'm not talking about the ones that were like God's intended purpose for me. I'm not talking about, I am talking about on 65 in the 12 and 12 where it defines the measure of a defect. It said, these things have outgrown God's intended purpose for me. And that is the measure of my defects. It tells me what is the measure of my defects. So people that would think, and I used to think, like in the 12 and 12 where it talks about a newcomer saying, man, if they take all these things away from me, am I going to be the hole in the donut? Somebody may have remembered seeing that. Well, it ain't they're taking everything. It's just the rampage piece, right? It's the part that's out of kilter. And I got to find out what that is, and these steps help me with that, right? Step 4. So the real question that I want to know about myself when I get here is, why do I keep doing what I've been doing? Why do I keep going back, right? Because it's really important for me to understand what the truth about my alcoholism is, right? And I understand it now, but I needed somebody to show me in the book, right? Because we want to think we can come to meetings and just sit in a chair and warm a chair and this thing will rub off by osmosis, I want the easier, softer way. I want to work a step a year. That's the program I want. Or they hear somebody read page 85 in the meeting, and it says, when tempted, we recoil as from a hot flame. This happens automatically with little or no effort on our part. And then a newcomer goes, yeah, that's the program I want, the little or no effort program. And they just got out of jail, right? So they got a slip sign, and they said, man, I recoiled from temptation today. So they're thinking, I must already have this. These idiots are talking about working steps. I got to jump on this. Well, I hate to break it to you. In that moment of temptation, I recoil immediately as from a hot flame, and that happens automatically as it needs to, because I don't have time to call Ken, right? It's better happen, because when it happened before and I'd get tempted, I'd go straight to the house of pain. It needs to happen automatically. It needs to happen with little or no effort. That's what puts me in that position of neutrality. But here's where the truth comes in. It takes a lot of effort to put me in that position to where I can be in that moment when it happens automatically. It takes a lot of effort to get there. That's called the steps. I need something that a guy named Daniel a long time ago had. Simple truth of it all. In the big book, Daniel talks about, well, he didn't talk about it because he didn't say it, but I'm going to play like he might have said it. When Daniel came out of the lion's den, he didn't say, hey fellas, let me go back in there and get my fucking hat. right? So he came out of the lion's den and he didn't have any qualms or any confusion about where he didn't want to go back to. Why am I talking about Daniel? It was because that's what we're talking about here. How many times did I come out of the lion's den only to say, hey, let me go back in there and get my hat, right? Because I sang the Alcoholics National Anthem, I'll never do it again. I came out of the lion's den. I gave God that 911 prayer. He got me out of this one that I promised to do better after he would do that, right? And then I'm like, thanks, Big G. Well, holla. I'm going to go get my hat because I got a little bald spot. I got skin up, but it's okay. I still got a little bit of hair. Why did I keep doing that? Yeah, we laugh because we relate. We know we've been back in the lion's den. That simple knowledge that Daniel obviously had, he didn't want to go back there. It was obviously going to be injurious, right? Even though we admit it's injurious, we can after a time differentiate the truth from the false. That part of the book, yeah, we're back to the book now. We're in the big book, not the big book. I'm liable to mention the big book. But because I phrase it in that way and I get in and out so quick, nobody can get me for it. It's like, oh, I've already moved on from that, brother. Cut me some slack. This fellowship thing is a game that I really enjoy playing, trust me. Because, dispensing the real truth that I know that I need to hear, that other people need to hear, it's a trick in here. Because when you start bringing the straight dope, it ain't going to make everybody happy. The way I look at it is I didn't like my dope cut, and I don't want my recovery cut. I want the straight truth, not a half a truth, because I hear half a measures avail me. So the thing about it is, I want to know why I kept going back. Now, we talk about, there's no way I can not do this, right? What was it that alcohol did for me? Here, I tell you, it's getting hot. I ain't even got started. Put it back on high. Time's almost out. See, I just need to be given 2 hours. I just don't seem to be able to. I don't even see. Look, hey, I didn't stop drinking at 8. I'm gonna straight up tell you. Oh, it's 8. Oh, it's time to go home. Meeting's over. No, I'd go in the bar thinking I'm gonna have 2 beers and go home and cut the grass. And then after a beer or two, something said, forget the damn grass. I thought I told you we were going to have another. Right. And then I went to the House of Pain, right, with brand new Nike kicks, and I'm walking home barefoot because I hocked my Nike kicks for a bag of crumbs. Do you feel me? Maybe a couple of people in here do.
And you left your hat before.
And I'm still looking for the hat. Thank you. Now, usually I don't let hecklers go by, but I got a friend in the gallery, and I'm cool with him. Because he's been doing this every single time I've mentioned the big book. You got a big book thumper right back there. Got a friend till the end, Heidi Ho, right? And I know your name ain't Chucky. All right, so, see, somebody got that. That's cool. That's one of those he's driving home. What did he mean by that? It's Chucky. Fucking idiot. So anyway, why is it that I kept going back? See? When we think about it, it's because, I thought about it, it's because of what the doctor said, right? The doctor's opinion, we drink essentially for the effect. Well, that's nice. That is so nice that he encapsulated everything that alcohol did into one word. Isn't that nice of him? Well, he didn't know what we know. It gives me a little bit more than just an effect for me to go back after all the shit that I went through, right? It better give me something more than that. I'm not talking about a slightly tipsy, out of control feeling. I'm talking about it better give me something substantial for me to go back in the lion's den. It better give me something substantial for me to have every reason on earth to quit. And an earnest desire to quit when I sang the Alcoholics National Anthem and then end up going back. I want to know, and I bet you there's somebody in here now, yeah, you know what? Come to think of it, I do want to know. Because I figure this guy's gone this far, he's probably going to tell me. Chances are it's going to be in the book, so you can go check it out for yourself. So the effect is defined for me on page 83, and it's funny that we read it. We read it in every meeting. I'm going to try to find it right here because that little print is so small. I'm going to read it off this thing. It's got the easy eye. I'm going to read it a special way. And when I read it this way, I swear, the first time I heard it this way, I realized That's why I kept going back. And when I read it this way, you're going to feel the same way. Because I feel like we probably all have this in common. Unless you just got out of Atrox and said, let me go in here and see what these guys are doing. So, what was it that alcohol gave me? Because see, my disease wants me to remember what alcohol in solid or liquid form. And that's how I get that in here. See, there's little tricks. You can get what you want to say in a fellowship, but you got to say it the right way. Solid or liquid form. What was it that my disease wants me to remember what it did for me, not what it did to me. Here's what it did for me. And here's why I kept going back over and over and over. And it almost ties back to the beginning of the first thing I said. And I'm actually not tying it because I'm ready to stop talking. I was like, dude, you're setting yourself up to stop. What are you doing? But it's time for me to talk about this. So this is why I kept going back. And chances are it's the effect personified and expanded out in a way that's undeniable. And it really gives me some insight into it being less about my character and my weakness and more about real stuff that it was giving me. When I took a drink of alcohol, I knew a new freedom and a new happiness. When I got loaded, I didn't regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it. When I got high, I comprehended the word serenity and I knew peace. When I got drunk, that feeling of uselessness and self-pity disappeared. When I got drunk, I lost interest in selfish things and gained interest in my fellows. When I got high, my whole attitude and outlook upon life changed for less and less of a period as time went on. When I got drunk, fear of people and of economic insecurity left me. When I got high, I intuitively knew how to handle situations that used to baffle me. I drive better drunk. And here's the kicker. There's no way to deny this. I suddenly realized that alcohol in solid or liquid form was doing for me what I could not do for myself. That's why I kept going back. And I didn't even know it. I didn't even know that there were words to put to why I kept going back. But it was giving me all those things. And my disease wanted me to remember the beginning of when it gave me those things, not toward the end, right? We're on 151 now. Conviviality, companionship, a colorful imagination. I ain't never seen nary a chestnut roaching on no open fire, okay? These are fantasies that you hear about, but nobody roasts a chestnut. You can't even put it on a no wire hangers. I only have plastic hangers. I don't even think about wire hangers. You can't put a chestnut on a wire hanger and you ain't going to roast it neither. So these are like myths that I would come up with that, man, all those good times out there. Wow, I miss it. My disease wants me to remember all of this it did for me, not what it did to me. If there ever was a realization that I need something different, right? Extravagant promises. How do I get this without drugs and alcohol? That's the trick. It is extravagant when you get here. How could you possibly imagine getting this anywhere else? Now, if I come in and I just get off the sauce and I think that I'm going to make 90 and 90 and get this by osmosis, I'm without the promises from alcohol and I'm without the promises from the steps. We're talking about recovery purgatory, and I've got like a hand grenade hanging around my neck and it's ticking and I don't know when it's going to go off. And everybody in here comes in with a different grace period. Who knows how long it's going to be, but I'm going to tell you, my mind is hardwired like a computer to always remember where it used to get those. So if I don't get them from the steps, it's only a matter of time. And what is it that triggers this? I'm going to tell you what it triggers it for me. There's a trigger. There's always a trigger that makes me have to go back. And this is where I should tell you this is the perfect place for me to tell you about the beach, right? The sand. When I was a kid, and it's designed, it happens to be true, but it's designed to give a mental picture of an important point about what is it that triggers me have to go back to drinking. And how could you possibly do that? And this is how. When I was a kid, I went to Florida, and the sand was so hot. I remember, and the beach was long beach. Maybe because I was a kid, but still, it looked long. So I'm walking across this hot sand, and I'm talking about it's hot. And I'm at the Rubicon, right? That's called the point of no return, where you can't go, you've run out of fuel, you can't go back. I'm in the middle of this thing, and it's so hot, I'm burning. I'm talking about, picture yourself, it's hot. There's no flip-flops, just me in this, little bathing suit, okay? And I'm in the middle of this deal, and what happens? It's so hot, I got to have some relief. You can't lay down, it's going to burn all of you. Now it's burning my little feet. What do? I take my bathing suit off, throw it on the ground, and stand on it. True story. Why in God's name would anybody do that? Because he needed some relief. Why would he do something that's so against social mores? And he knew mom was going to whip his ass. Why would he do that? He needed some relief. Now, how do I equate that in here? What kind of relief would it have to be for me to do that in here? The mental picture is the same. The heat of life itself. The heat of the greatest enemies, right? We think about resentment being the number one offender, and it of course says that. But there's another part in the book that gives some really grave insight into what would trigger me to go back. And it did trigger me. Not anymore, but it did. It's how I come by all this. It talks about on 145 in the big book, the greatest enemies of us alcoholics are resentment, jealousy, envy, frustration, and fear. On 37, it talks about some of us have gone out deliberately to get drunk, feeling ourselves justified by nervousness, worry, anger, depression, jealousy, and the like. But even in these beginnings, I have to admit, but my justification for a spree was insanely insufficient in the light of the drinking bout, the havoc it created. I actually messed up 2 words in that. Thought I was doing good, and then I killed it at the end. Dang, I'll have to practice more. But the thing about it is that look at what it said. The greatest enemies are the feelings of life that none of us can avoid. The feelings that come up in life that I'm not prepared to handle because I've always drank over them, right? Oh, I got a feeling, let me drink. I don't want to feel that. And it says, even in our book, it talks about we push these deep down inside ourselves so they'll never see the light of day. And then all of a sudden I get in recovery and I don't have the promises from alcohol or the steps, and something in life shows up. And it don't have to be big, right? It can be something small. It could be she didn't call me back. Talking about making a mountain out of a molehill. You're looking at your boy here. I can do it. The feelings of life that I don't want to feel can be so uncomfortable. I'm like that kid on that beach. I need some relief. Boom, and before I know it, I'm drinking. Even if I admitted it's injurious. Just like the page said. I justify myself because I can't handle those feelings, those greatest enemies. 2 big realizations, right? Why did I keep going back? The promises read in a special way. I highly recommend you go read them that way and see what it means to you, because you're going to go, you know what? Yeah. What is the greatest enemies? More than a number one offender. It's like the greatest enemies. If I don't have the steps to learn how to deal with feelings. And look, I got friends that are going through real shit, okay? My little shit, like which shirt do I wear? Have I got new pennies in my penny loafers? Got them. That ain't no real problems, right? That's like what they call leaves in a swimming pool problems, right? Describe real problems, real challenges from out there, right? I mean, I ain't got the kind of problems I had when I got here. And that's another thing. I want to move on in from the stark reality, which is almost so heavy like a pall. It's settled down thicker, ever becoming blacker. The kind of reality I just got through talking about is so thought-provoking and so sobering and so scary. Let me get off of it and talk about something light for a second, right? Wow, how did I forget what I was going to say? Was there something about a nugget a while ago? What was that? Now I can't even remember. Oh yeah, the solution to it all. Abby comes to see Bill, right? We got to talk about this, right? I'm in the middle of the beach, right? It's hot. The greatest enemies are on me. I need a solution. Now let's not discount willpower, because we talked about half the zeal. Let's talk about on 161 in the 12 and 12. It says, let no one say that this program takes no willpower. here is one place it may take all you've got. Now that shit's heavy. That's the shit you don't talk about at AA parties. But the truth is there. I had energy out there. I need to be putting it in here. Same thing I said in the beginning, except this time it's Bill W.'s words and not some city slicker that come in out of town, some ringer they brought in here. You can go check that out for yourself. I need a solution. And what is that solution? Ebby came to see Bill. Same solution he found. Here comes Ebby. And this is where I start to try to tie everything I've already mentioned together, because that's the way I was trained to do, because I was taught that people remember only two things about any speech that anybody gives: what they said in the beginning and what they said in the end. So if I don't recap, you're going to forget everything I said in the middle. So I'm supposed to touch. Bang, bang, bang. Okay. So Ebby comes to see Bill. Now is where it comes in, those books that I talk about, that I went to read, that talks about what's underneath the surface. And I'm going to tell you one of the coolest underneath the surface nuggets that I've ever found. Even if you never go read AA Comes of Age, you can take this to your next meeting and you'll wow the crowd. Wow, how did he know that? Wow, that's cool stuff, man. AA Comes of Age talks about Bill's Story Plus. I just bought it for a friend of mine. I highly recommend you go read it. It's called Recovery. It's the first section. It's everything that's not in the big book, but all the cool stuff. So Ebby comes to see Bill. Remember how he says, boy, there was something inexplicably different about his eyes. He was on a grasp of new soil. There's something about his eyes, and he was just, fresh-skinned and glowing, and my gin, with pineapple juice, by the way, which is not in the book, which is in that. Pineapple juice and gin would last longer than his ranting. And what did Ebby say to him? Bill, I've got religion. That's in the book. We know this. I've got religion. But here's what's not in the book. And here's what ties to something else in Bill's story that we've read past over and over, just like we said, maintain and not attain, over and over, and didn't even think about it. We read right past what I'm going to tell you, and when I tell you this connection, you will never, ever see Bill's story the same again. Now that's the kind of impact you can sink your teeth into. You can take that shit home with you. So Ebby says, I've got religion. And Bill says, not in here. In AA Comes of Age. He says, Ebby, what brand of religion is it? And Ebby says, it's the religion of common sense. And that's why on page 13 it says, my common sense had thus become uncommon. That's why he said that. Because of what he said to Ebby about the religion of common sense. And he had the realization that all of a sudden, what I had been thinking, maybe that ain't the way it is. See? So there may be one or two people in here that followed me in what I said about Bill's story. I know there's one. I know Ken did. But it's something that's worth investigating, right? So I talked to you about when Ebby came and put page 9, right? Now then we ease on over to page 13. He says common sense that does become uncommon. And we can come up with a cool little meaning for it, but not this cool, because that wasn't in the book. That's the secret stuff. That's the secret stuff, only relegated to those who love this program enough to go investigate what really went on. What is the religion of common sense? Now, I could tell you something really cool, like, well, in the Oxford group, which is where Ebby came from, and Roland Hazard, which is the certain American businessman on page 26, who actually was Bill's sponsor, not Ebby, by the way. And in the Oxford group, they used a book called The Common Sense of Drinking by Peabody. You can go look it up on the net. It's a little bitty red book. I could say that, and that's where they got the common sense, but not really. What is the religion of common sense? The religion of common sense is the simplicity of spirituality as opposed to religiousness. What's religiousness? Boy, I'm going to give you some classic examples. There ain't no way to deny, because the only way to tell a real story that people can get in the middle is to get on the extremes and get them to do this, and then you got it. What is religiose? Steadfast adherence to religious practices with no thought whatsoever about, does it make any dang sense? Now, I'll paraphrase that last piece. Whether or not I'm spiritual, I'm going to throw 3 examples. And if I have to explain it, that's cool, because I tend to talk too fast. And I tend to think that I'm conveying information when really people are going, what is he talking about? Whether I'm spiritual or not has nothing to do about whether I eat bacon. Does anybody get that? Okay, I got about 3 people. Okay. What faith is that? Well, let's just start with the letter, right? Do we even need to go any farther? I mean, I dated a chick. I had to balance a damn napkin on my head when I ate because I didn't have one of them little hats. Right? Whether I'm spiritual or not has nothing to do with whether I eat bacon. We're talking split hoof. Okay. Let me get off the bacon. Whether I'm spiritual or not has nothing to do. Right? You didn't know you was coming on the right night. The correct night. You came tonight. I'm telling you, I'm on fire right now. Look, I usually don't get this excited unless there's 100 people. I'm telling you, the more people, I mean, it's Tony Robbins, baby. No tears here. The straight dope, because we don't like our recovery cut, right? My spirituality does not depend on whether I say 9 or 10 Hail Marys this week. Right? Nothing, not zero, less than nothing to do with that. But people would tell you it has everything to do with it. Religios. Here's the one that I love to do, especially post 9/11. Love to get the dig in. Whether or not I'm spiritual or not has nothing to do with whether I pray 15 times a day and face east on a magic carpet. Right? Nothing. Zero. They tell you it does, but they're telling you a lie. Because the scrolls that they found after they wrote the big book talks about the kingdom of God is in each one of us. Where do you think they got that on 55 in the big book? In the final analysis, it is only there that it may be found. Deep down within us, every man, woman, and child is the fundamental idea of God. It may be obscured by pomp, worship of other things, but in one form or another, it is there. The fundamental idea of right and wrong that was on my shoulder in 1985 when I broke in a house to get more money, to get more solid alcohol. Little bird on my shoulder said, Mike, I don't think that's a good idea to break in that house. But there was another one that said, you're going, and let's don't even talk about it. Okay? But we know that that voice was there. That fundamental idea of right and wrong was there. What is the religion of common sense? We know what it ain't got nothing to do with. Bacon. Number of times. Which way I face. What does it have to do with? The religion of common sense has to do with giving that little voice that was always there that chance it deserves. To be not just heard, but heeded. Heard and heeded. Heeded implies action. Heard don't have to do nothing. Heed means I heard it and I acted upon it. Now, if I can do that in here, I can go far. Again, everything I need I've already got, Richard Pryor. Everything I need I've already got. The truth about what brought me here. And I can use that past as an asset. Not just to help somebody else, but to help myself. Because we don't shut the door on that past. We leave it open. But I don't have to walk back through it either. What's the religion of common sense? The religion of common sense is turning my back on the God of my childhood that's still circling the First Baptist Church, striking down sinners, and saying, I've got a God that's going to forgive me for what I've done, but expects me to live differently. And I'm going to end with this because it is time to go. And although I could continue, as you probably already have surmised, we could still be here at 9 o'clock, just like this. Because I ain't even started going through the steps yet. That's when it really gets interesting. Go through every single one of them, tying them books together with gold thread like fucking Rumpelstiltskin. I'm talking about for real. By now you know I ain't kidding. I mean, because Really, this is fun, right? Because so many people miss how exciting this stuff is. And if I can say anything that can make somebody go home and look in that book about something I said, and that big book comes alive, then I've done my job. Right? Because this better be exciting. Because if I ain't excited about this, it's lion's den, baby, and it ain't long about it. So, giving God a chance to work in my life. I'll tell you about step 3 and then I'm going to end, because I can't get into the mechanics of 4, nor do I want to get into the deep discussion that 4 can entail, but I have touched on a little bit about how I can have those defects before I ever got here. I will touch on 4. I'll tell you one of the coolest analogies that I've come up with, and I come up with this one. This is mine. Use this, you got to give me credit for 2 weeks. I'm just kidding. So, what is the 4-step like, right? The 4-step is my first chance to own my disease, right? Because I come in here, I'm thinking it's alcohol's my problem. Look how they did me. No wonder people don't want to work the 4-step, because I don't want to have anything to do with entertaining the thought that it was something about me that caused my problems. And that's what the 4-step is, right? What is working the 4-step? What would that be like? I've already talked about shoving these things deep down within me, right? So I went to Ober-Gatlinburg one time, and I'm going to end after this. You don't have to run off. I'm going to end after. Okay.
Just talk loud.
It's all good. Really? Don't threaten me with a good time, because I'll talk loud. Leave the door open. No, I went to Gatlinburg one time. You know Gatlinburg up there? I'll never forget it, because I was drinking with a buddy of mine. I think this was 1983 or something. We went up there. We're drinking Tall Boy Budweisers, and we see this sign, a big wooden sign that says Ober-Gatlinburg. O-B-E-R. I guess that's a German word. I don't know what it means. I know what it sounds like. And I remember sitting on that sign, drunk as hell, saying, I hope we don't get sick all over Gatlinburg. Man, I'm telling you, we laughed about that for a week. Hole up in that hotel room. Ober-Gatlinburg. We must have said it 1,000 times. Ober-Gatlinburg. Yeah, you know, I mean, some of the stuff. Really? Okay, Mike, you know. So I went up there and I saw this cool mountain stream, 4-step, right? This is one of those cool analogies, because JC always used analogies to prove points. Thousands of years ago, he knew this is how to do it. You paint a picture in somebody's mind and it proves the point, because they got this picture and they never forget it. What is the 4-step? We talked about it. We shoved that stuff deep down within inside us. And what did I see up there? A cool mountain stream, right? I'm talking about freezing water. I'm talking about them little minnows that are swimming the other way, and you're looking down at that cool mountain stream and those little rocks and pebbles and the little fishies, and it's so clear, and you put your hand down in it, you taste it. It's the best water you can possibly imagine. You can picture this. What would happen if you took a stick and rubbed it across the bottom of that thing? Stir everything up, right? Oh my God, he's messed up the cool mountain stream. What does the 4-step do? Just like that. It stirs up all that old stuff that I had neatly forgotten. That everything looks grand here, Ma. We're on page 82. Grand, the wind stopped blowing. Nothing wrong here, baby. Nothing wrong here, baby. And then they asked me to rub a stick across the bottom of that, my life. And that stuff is swirling around all over the place, and I'm going, hold on a minute, I don't wear shit to go sailing. Sorry, Ken. The thing about it is, he's a sailor. He's a captain, a real live captain. That proves that we can do things in recovery. Everybody has special skills and abilities. I didn't even go into page 21 and how there's more good than bad. I don't have time to do it, but I'll paint you a picture. You'll be thinking you're better than everybody on the street before I'm through. But the thing about it is that stream, and then I got all these feelings stirred up. No wonder hardly anybody finishes the 4-step, because as soon as they put the first stick on the bottom of that thing, they're going, ooh, this is uncomfortable. I'm out of here. Like a box of chocolates. I don't like that chocolate. And they quit 5 minutes before the miracle, right? Because we're unwilling to look at the real truth. That there was something about me that caused all this. And with God's help, I can change even that. And then I can be a better person, right? Then I can feel better about myself. And I can come in meetings and not hear some of the stuff that I heard when I got here. Somebody with 20 years saying, and I heard this, I'm the same sick, selfish son of a bitch as the first day I walked in here, and I still don't know anything. I heard it. Percy, Huffman, I don't care. 1987. I was like, well, I was scared, but I came back 10 years later, and he said it. And I'm going to tell you what I said. I'm going to tell you, I made his four-step if he ever did one. He said that quote exactly the same. He said, and I still don't know anything. And I said, well, next time I don't want to know anything, I'll look you up, sir. We got to think about what we say that newcomers hear in here. People that have time and who have recovered have a responsibility to tell the truth. Because if we dispense stuff like that, they're going to hear what I heard. And I'm going, wait a second. He's got 20 years. He's the same sick, selfish son of a bitch, and he still don't know anything. Thanks for saving me the trouble, brother. I'm out of here. And we wonder why AA doesn't work anymore. You think I'm bullshitting. I am not. We are so worried about what people think about what we say in here. We stay away from words like recovered and restored when that was the main purpose of the book. I'm not talking about object on 45. I'm talking about forward to the first. The main purpose of this book to show us precisely how we recovered. I'm talking about words that were the foundation stones of this whole thing nobody even talks about anymore because we're afraid of what people think, and we don't want them to think we're arrogant. So we go along to get along. And the next thing we know, we're trying to ride on the humble train, and we're killing people along the way because we're not willing to say, we got this thing. But what do they say and how it works? Another one of those things we read past. If you want what we have, they said they had it. If you want what we have, you're willing to do something, not sit on your ass. What I have better sound good. That's my point. I better acknowledge that I've got it, and it better sound good, or ain't nobody going to want it. Is there any way to deny it? There ain't no way to deny it. Because the truth speaks for itself. Unfortunately, sometimes the truth can be very uncomfortable. Just ask a couple of guys from hundreds of years ago. One of them was called Columbus, right? He had this freaky idea that the world was round. Right. Everybody else was thinking, no, brother, don't rock the boat. Don't rock the boat, killer, because it's flat. The water just runs off the edge. His drunk ass, he was such a good alcoholic, he got a woman to finance his trip. True story. That comes from the old Joe and Charlie, by the way. You got to date yourself on that. So what do we teach? We teach this in kindergarten kids now. He stood up for what he believed in and got completely ridiculed for it, but it was correct. What about Galileo? Galileo, my boy, balls of steel, right? What'd he say? He said the earth revolves around the sun, folks. I hate to break it to you. They're going, no, dude, you need to be quiet with all that because we're getting paid. They locked his ass up in house arrest. He died there for stuff we teach kids in kindergarten. I'm talking about the desire and the balls to stand up in AA when you know people ain't going to like what you're saying and say the truth. I got this. I'm recovered. God's restored my sanity. I've been given the power to help others. And all kinds of things that you could say out of the book. They give you something to live up to rather than something to live down to. And I guarantee you a newcomer needs to hear that because they're going to want that. Not what I heard. I'm the same. I'm not expecting to change anything. I'm just trying to give you food for thought. That those of us, and I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll say what Joe and Charlie said because I've tied everything enough and people are getting restless. What Joe and Charlie said about the duty. We have a duty. Those of us who have recovered from serious drinking have a duty to come in meetings and say what we need to say regardless of what anybody thinks about it. Because if we fail to do so, we turn AA over to the sickest to the sick, and we wonder why it wouldn't work anymore. See, what happens is these old timers, they get theirs and they say, well, holla. I'm still here. I don't need but one meeting a week, but I go to 14 because I don't know which one that is. Now, you can use that. I don't need but one meeting a week, but I go to 14 because I don't know which one that is. And Happy Jack, who first said that, has been dead for a decade, and I still give him credit because that's too cool. That can't be mine, right? I keep coming because I know that there's a message to be carried, but also I come because I see the desperation, I see the qualification, I see the gratitude that I get from people that aren't willing to do the very things that I know now are so simple. Anyway, there's something that I always end every time I share in meetings, and I'm going to end this. I'm going to tell you why I say it. And those that know me know that I say this. I mean, I could go through all the steps. I don't have time. Each one is so meticulous. Each one is so full of stuff, but I don't have time to do it. I would like to share it with you because I'm on a roll. I got new pennies. I mean, it's on. I mean, where am I going? But I've done enough. But I will say this. This right here is a statement that I say. 12 says, having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, I carry this message. And the word this in this has duality, the same kind of duality that in the fifth tradition, it's. It says its message. A group can have its message, but it don't have to be this message. I can take it to a meeting where they got a message, but it ain't this message, baby. It's the cat stuck under the bed and look what the bitch did to me and all this stuff. Anything but the AA message, right? Right? I'm talking about the duality of this message. This message is this sentence, but also this message is what's in that book. And if I'm not carrying what's in that book, I don't need to even be talking in here. So every time I end whatever I share in meetings, I always say this sentence, and I'm going to say it now. And I've told you why I say it. Because it's important. I've had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, and I'll pass.
Thank you, Myra.
Thank you, brother.
Y'all please remember to clean up after